Um, so yeah, just to talk you through, we've done introductions, but yeah, I'll talk you through a little bit more through the schools framework. And I'm really sorry, I might have been saying hospitals framework because I was in a session just before this talking about our hospital framework. So my apologies if I misspoke. We have both. If you were interested, and anyone wants to see the schools framework, I can share a link to that too. But no, I'll focus on schools for now. So essentially, when all of our Global Action Plan, we've been working with schools for many years, looking at air pollution as an issue. And when we talk to schools, there are kind of 4 topics that we will often focus on. So one is looking at how you can reduce the volume of traffic outside the school. And there are a range of different ways that you can look at that, but obviously school streets are a particularly kind of strong policy and one that we absolutely support. I appreciate it's not applicable for every school, and then there are other measures you can look at. But we understand that one of the most critical things you can do is look at how we can reduce that volume of traffic. We appreciate there are also a range of things that are school activities or actions that a school can take within the school community and inside the school specifically to improve air quality. So that can be on points such as improving ventilation, for example. We also think it's vitally important to work with schools on our air quality work because we know that we can create low pollution habits with future generations by engaging students and their families on tackling air pollution. And so really having those conversations with the school community is really important in terms of them understanding how they might be contributing and what they could do differently. And then just finally, I guess in all of our work, we're so conscious that young people in particular are particularly vulnerable to the impacts of air pollution. And it's important that their voices are heard, both within their community, but also from decision makers in terms of, those who are developing policies on air quality strategies for local authorities or at the London level, that they're hearing from young people and their experiences of what happens when they can't breathe clean air. And so in terms of our work with schools, we developed a free online tool, which is this Clean Air Schools framework, which I've mentioned. And the idea is the tool will ask a selection of questions. It's not very long, but the idea is it helps create an action plan which is specific for that school and its current environment. So rather than just a massive checklist of all the things you can do, it does tailor it to the specific kind of school environment that you're working in. And then what it will do is kind of as part of this, it creates a selection of kind of actions that you can take, and that's based on current research and best practice and academic insights to look at how you can improve air quality within that school community. And yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, that the framework itself absolutely talks to these 4 points in terms of reducing air pollution from your own operations, in terms of tackling air pollution at the school gate, in terms of that education piece. And it sounds like there's already a kind of range of education pieces that are already being shared across your schools, but we have a selection too, which are drawn both from the kind of schools work that we have done, but also from kind of existing tools and resources that are out there. And it also talks about how to become a local leader on air pollution, so working with local partners, for example, to improve air quality in the local area. So yeah, as I kind of mentioned earlier, the framework itself, and we'll share links to this at the end of the session, I'll do a follow-up too. But it's this kind of online tool, and it will ask a selection of simple questions, which will then give you a kind of selection of choices across these 4 areas of voice, education, operations, and school gate. And again, it's absolutely up to the school to choose kind of which of those are most applicable and to decide kind of where you would like to go with this. But I think particularly if you're at the start of the journey, it's quite useful to give you an understanding of the range of things that you could potentially do in your school to support cleaner air. This is just a kind of a visual to give you a kind of sense of what it looks like on the screen. But essentially, yeah, you're created with this kind of selection of a clean air action plan, and it will link to also helpful advice and resources and case studies from across the country, actually, on this area of work. And then, yeah, you will have this kind of dashboard essentially as part of the program, where you can look at kind of which path that you want to focus on and select different actions to include within your action plan. Okay, and just to give you an idea of kind of how the framework was developed, so as I mentioned earlier, it's really trying to pull together research and best practice, and it was guided through with the support of a range of different organisations who are kind of leading in this area of work. I'm sure you'll be familiar with many of the organisations on this page. So in terms of kind of next steps and what you can do, so yeah, we encourage all of our sensor holders to sign up to access the Clean Air Schools framework, and I will share that link around with you so you can have a little look around and look at kind of how you might like to use it. We can absolutely, if there are particular topics or actions that come up in the action plan that you get that you would like to do a deeper dive on, Jack's really happy to kind of run kind of further deeper dive sessions on particular actions. So yeah, that is in a nutshell the Clean Air Schools framework, and I just wanted to see